where we explore the beautiful art of living well at every stage of life. I'm so glad you've joined me today because we're going to dive into something truly special. I've had the incredible privilege of spending time with some of the most radiant, joyful women I've ever met, and what do they all have in common? They're all over 70 years old, and they absolutely glow with happiness and contentment. Now, you might be wondering what makes these women so different. What's their secret? How do they wake up each morning with such enthusiasm for life when many of their peers seem to be just going through the motions? Well, after countless conversations, cups of tea, and heartfelt stories shared over kitchen tables, I've discovered that it's not about having perfect health, unlimited money, or even a house full of grandchildren, though those things are certainly blessings. No, what I've found is that these joyful women have developed very specific daily habits that keep their spirits bright and their hearts full. Today, I want to share these 10 remarkable habits with you, because here's what I've learned. Joy isn't something that just happens to lucky people. Joy is something we cultivate, something we practice, something we choose every single day. And these wise women have mastered the art of choosing joy, regardless of what life throws their way. Before we begin, I want you to imagine for a moment your ideal version of yourself at 70, 80, or even 90 years old. Picture yourself vibrant, engaged, surrounded by love, and genuinely excited about each new day. That's not just a dream, my friends. That can be a reality, and it starts with the choices you make right now today. So settle in, perhaps grab a warm cup of tea or coffee, and let me introduce you to the daily habits that have transformed these remarkable women into beacons of joy and inspiration. Trust me, by the end of our time together, you'll have a roadmap for creating your own joyful life, no matter what age you are right now. The first habit I discovered among these radiant women might surprise you, because it's something so simple, yet so powerful. Every single one of them starts their day with what I call a gratitude awakening. Now, this isn't just about saying a quick thank you as they roll out of bed. No, this is much more intentional and beautiful than that. Margaret, who's 74 and lives in a cozy apartment overlooking a small garden, explained it to me this way. She said that the moment she opens her eyes, before she even sits up, she takes 3 deep breaths and mentally lists 3 things she's grateful for. But here's the beautiful part. She doesn't just list them, she actually feels them. She might be grateful for the softness of her pillow, and she'll run her hand across it, really experiencing that comfort. She might be grateful for the sound of birds outside her window, and she'll lie there for a moment, really listening. She might be grateful for another day of life, and she'll place her hand on her heart and feel it beating strong and steady. What Margaret and the other women have discovered is that gratitude isn't just a mental exercise. It's a full-body, full-heart experience that literally changes the chemistry of their brains and sets the tone for everything that follows. When you start your day by actively appreciating what you already have, you're training your mind to look for the good in everything that comes your way. Dorothy, who's 81 and still volunteers at her local library 3 days a week, takes this practice even further. She keeps what she calls her morning gratitude journal right beside her bed. In it, she writes just one sentence about something she's grateful for, but she makes sure to include why it matters to her. For example, she might write, "I'm grateful for my neighbor's cat who visits my windowsill because his purring reminds me that I'm never truly alone." These aren't just words on a page, they're little love letters to life itself. The science behind this habit is absolutely fascinating. When we actively practice gratitude, especially first thing in the morning, we're literally rewiring our brains to notice and appreciate the positive aspects of our lives. This creates what researchers call an upward spiral of positivity that influences everything from our immune system to our relationships to our ability to handle stress. But here's what makes these women's gratitude practice so special. They've learned to be grateful not just for the obviously good things, but for the challenges and difficult experiences too. Rose, who's 77 and has faced her share of losses and health challenges, told me something that gave me chills. She said, "I've learned to be grateful for my arthritis because it taught me to slow down and notice the small pleasures I used to rush past." I'm grateful for losing my husband because it showed me how deeply I can love and how strong I really am. I'm grateful for my wrinkles because each one tells a story of laughter, worry, surprise, and all the emotions that make us beautifully human. This level of gratitude transforms everything. When you can find something to appreciate even in your struggles, you become virtually unstoppable. You develop what I call joy resilience, the ability to bounce back from anything life throws your way and still find reasons to smile. The second habit these joyful women share is something they call tending their body garden. Now, this isn't about intense workouts or strict diets or trying to look 20 years younger. No, this is about treating their bodies with the same loving care they would give to a precious garden that they want to flourish for many years to come. Every morning, after their gratitude practice, these women engage in gentle, loving movement. But here's what makes their approach so different from the exercise routines we often see promoted. They move for joy, not punishment. They move because it feels good, not because they're trying to fix something wrong with themselves. Helen, who's 73 and has been practicing yoga for over 20 years, explained it beautifully. She said, "I don't do yoga to be flexible or to look good in yoga pants. I do yoga because when I stretch and breathe and move mindfully, I'm having a conversation with my body. I'm saying thank you to my legs for carrying me through this life. Thank you to my arms for all the hugs they've given. Thank you to my spine for keeping me upright through all of life's storms." Some of these women dance in their living rooms to their favorite music from their youth. Others take slow, meditative walks where they focus on the sensation of their feet touching the ground. Some do gentle stretching routines, others practice Tai Chi, and a few simply do what they call joy movements, which are spontaneous gestures that feel good in the moment, like raising their arms to the sky or swaying like a tree in the wind. The key is that they've completely reframed the relationship between themselves and their bodies. Instead of seeing their bodies as broken-down machines that need fixing, they see them as faithful companions that have carried them through decades of life and deserve to be honored and cared for. This extends to how they nourish themselves as well. These women don't diet in the traditional sense. Instead, they practice what I call loving nutrition. They eat foods that make them feel energized and happy. They savor their meals instead of rushing through them. They cook with intention and eat with appreciation. Eleanor, who's 79 and still tends a small vegetable garden, makes this practice almost ceremonial. She told me that when she prepares her meals, she actually talks to her food. She thanks the tomatoes for growing so beautifully. She appreciates the herbs for their fragrant contribution. She acknowledges the nourishment that each ingredient will provide her body. This isn't eccentric behavior. It's a profound practice of mindfulness and gratitude that transforms eating from a mundane activity into an act of self-love. What's remarkable is how this gentle, loving approach to physical care actually yields better results than harsh, punitive methods. These women have more energy, better balance, stronger immune systems, and fewer aches and pains than many women decades younger who are constantly fighting against their bodies instead of working with them. The third habit that defines these joyful women is perhaps the most beautiful of all. They are master cultivators of deep, meaningful relationships. But here's what makes their approach unique. They understand that the quality of their relationships is directly proportional to the quality of their own inner life. These women have learned that you cannot give what you don't have, and you cannot love others well if you don't love yourself well. So they've made the conscious decision to become the kind of people they would want to spend time with. They've cultivated kindness, patience, humor, wisdom, and compassion within themselves, and naturally, these qualities attract others like flowers attract bees. Barbara, who's 75 and seems to have friends everywhere she goes, shared something profound with me. She said, "I used to worry constantly about whether people liked me, whether I was interesting enough, whether I was too much or not enough. But somewhere in my 60s, I realized that the secret to having wonderful friends isn't to become someone others will like. The secret is to become someone you genuinely enjoy being, and then you'll naturally attract people who appreciate the real you." This shift in perspective has freed these women to show up authentically in their relationships. They don't pretend to be perfect, they don't hide their struggles, and they don't try to be something they're not. Instead, they bring their full, genuine selves to every interaction, and this authenticity is magnetic. But perhaps more importantly, these women have mastered the art of being genuinely interested in others. They ask thoughtful questions and actually listen to the answers. They remember details about people's lives and follow up with caring check-ins. They celebrate others' successes without jealousy and offer comfort during difficult times without trying to fix everything. Ruth, who's 83 and has maintained friendships spanning over 60 years, told me her secret. I've learned that the best gift you can give another person is your full attention. When someone is talking to me, I put down whatever I'm doing, I look them in the eyes, and I listen not just to their words, but to their heart. People are so hungry to be truly seen and heard, and when you give someone that gift, you create a bond that nothing can break. These women also understand the importance of being vulnerable in their relationships. They share their fears, their dreams, their mistakes, and their wisdom. They've learned that pretending to have it all figured out creates distance, while admitting your struggles and uncertainties creates intimacy. What's particularly touching is how these women nurture intergenerational friendships. They don't just spend time with people their own age, they actively seek out connections with younger people. They mentor, they listen, they share their stories, and they remain curious about new perspectives and ways of seeing the world. Grace, who's 76 and has what she calls her adopted granddaughters, women in their 20s and 30s who seek her wisdom and friendship, explained it this way. Young people keep me young, and I like to think my experience helps them navigate their challenges with a little more perspective. We need each other. Age segregation is one of the saddest things about modern life. When we separate ourselves by generations, everyone loses. The fourth daily habit these radiant women practice is what I call creative expression for the soul. Every single one of them engages in some form of creative activity, not because they're trying to become famous artists or sell their work, but because creativity feeds something deep within them that nothing else can touch. Now, when I say creativity, I don't just mean painting or writing, though some of them do these things beautifully. I mean any activity that allows them to express their inner world and bring something new into existence. Some of them garden, treating each flower bed like a living canvas. Others cook, experimenting with flavors and presentations like edible art. Some write letters, craft stories for their grandchildren, or keep detailed journals that capture not just events, but the emotions and insights that accompany them. What makes their creative practice so special is that they've completely divorced it from any need for external validation. They create for the pure joy of creating, for the satisfaction of expressing something that exists only within them, for the meditative quality of being fully absorbed in an activity that requires their complete attention. Patricia, who's 72 and has taken up watercolor painting in the last decade, put it beautifully. I will never be Monet, and that's perfectly fine with me. When I paint, I'm not trying to create a masterpiece for a museum. I'm trying to capture the way the morning light looks on my kitchen table, or the feeling I get when I see my grandson smile, or the color of joy if joy had a color. My paintings are love letters to all the beauty I've witnessed in this life. This creative expression serves multiple purposes in their lives. First, it provides what psychologists call flow states, those magical moments when time seems to disappear because you're so completely absorbed in what you're doing. These states are incredibly restorative and have been shown to reduce stress, improve mood, and even boost immune function. Second, creativity gives these women a way to process and integrate their life experiences. Through their art, writing, gardening, or crafting, they're able to transform both joy and pain into something beautiful and meaningful. They're not just surviving their experiences, they're alchemizing them into wisdom and beauty. Third, creative expression keeps their minds flexible and growing. When you're learning new techniques, experimenting with different approaches, or solving creative problems, you're building new neural pathways and keeping your brain young and adaptable. Joan, who's 78 and has recently started writing poetry after a lifetime of being too practical for such nonsense, shared something that moved me deeply. She said, "I thought creativity was a luxury I couldn't afford when I was raising children and working full-time. But now I realize creativity isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. It's how we make sense of our lives, how we leave a piece of our souls in the world, how we stay connected to the wonder and magic that exists all around us if we just take time to notice." The fifth habit these joyful women have mastered is the art of what I call purposeful service. Every one of them has found ways to contribute to something larger than themselves, but their approach to service is beautifully unique because it grows directly out of their own interests, experiences, and gifts. These women understand that having a sense of purpose doesn't require grand gestures or life-changing careers. Purpose can be found in small, consistent acts of service that align with who you are and what you care about. The key is that their service feels natural and energizing rather than obligatory or draining. Mary, who's 74 and volunteers at a local animal shelter, didn't choose this service randomly. She's been an animal lover her entire life, and after retiring from her career as a teacher, she was missing the sense of being needed and making a difference. At the shelter, she gets to combine her love of animals with her natural teaching abilities by helping new pet owners learn how to care for their companions. She told me, "I don't volunteer there because I think I should. I volunteer there because those animals and their families fill my heart in a way that nothing else does." What's remarkable about these women's approach to service is how they've learned to contribute from their strengths rather than trying to be everything to everyone. Some of them read to children at libraries, others visit elderly residents in nursing homes, some mentor young women starting their careers, others organize community events or maintain community gardens. The beautiful thing is that they've discovered service that doesn't feel like sacrifice. Instead, it feels like a natural extension of who they are, a way of sharing their gifts with the world while receiving energy and purpose in return. Susan, who's 80 and has been tutoring adults learning to read for the past 15 years, explained it perfectly. "I spent my whole life being a learner, and now I get to be a teacher. When I see someone read their first full sentence or their first book, I feel like I'm witnessing a miracle. Their joy becomes my joy, and suddenly we're both growing and learning together." These women have also learned that service doesn't always have to be formal volunteering. Sometimes it's as simple as being the neighbor who checks on others during storms, the friend who remembers birthdays and celebrates milestones, the woman who brings homemade soup to anyone going through a difficult time. What matters isn't the scale of their service, but the consistency and intentionality of it. They've woven contribution into the fabric of their daily lives, so they're constantly experiencing the profound satisfaction that comes from knowing they matter, they're needed, and they're making the world a little bit better simply by being in it. The sixth habit that sets these joyful women apart is their commitment to lifelong learning, but not in the way you might expect. They're not necessarily taking formal classes or pursuing degrees, though some of them are. Instead, they approach each day with what I call curious wonder, treating the world as an endless source of fascinating discoveries waiting to be made. These women have maintained the kind of curiosity that most people associate with children. They ask questions, they explore new ideas, they remain open to having their minds changed, and they find genuine excitement in learning things they didn't know before. Elizabeth, who's 77 and recently learned to use a computer so she could video chat with her grandchildren who live across the country, told me something that perfectly captures this spirit. "I used to think that learning was something you did when you were young, and then you were supposed to know everything you needed to know for the rest of your life. But that's such a sad way to live. Now I realize that every day I don't learn something new is a day I've wasted. There's so much beauty and mystery and knowledge in this world, and I plan to keep discovering it until I take my last breath." Their learning isn't driven by pressure or requirement, it's driven by genuine interest and joy. Some of them have learned to identify birds in their neighborhoods, others have delved into family genealogy, some have studied the history of their towns, others have learned to cook cuisines from different cultures. What's particularly beautiful is how they've learned to be beginners again, something that many adults find terrifying. They're willing to be awkward, to make mistakes, to ask for help, to not be the expert in the room. This willingness to be vulnerable in the learning process keeps them humble, keeps them growing, and keeps them connected to the excitement of discovery. Nancy, who's 75 and recently took up birdwatching after moving to a new town, shared this insight. Learning something completely new when you're older is like being reborn in a way. You see the world through fresh eyes. You notice things you've never noticed before. You realize how much you still don't know, and instead of that being frightening, it becomes exciting because it means there's still so much life left to explore. Their approach to learning is also beautifully social. They join book clubs, attend lectures at community centers, participate in discussion groups, and share their new knowledge with friends and family. Learning becomes a way of connecting with others and contributing to their communities. The seventh habit these radiant women practice is what I call intentional solitude. Now, this might seem contradictory given how much we've talked about their rich relationships and community involvement, but these women have discovered that the quality of your relationships with others is directly connected to the quality of your relationship with yourself. They've learned to not just tolerate being alone, but to actually treasure their solitary time. They use this time not to escape from life, but to connect more deeply with themselves, to process their experiences, to listen to their inner wisdom, and to simply enjoy their own company. This isn't about becoming hermits or withdrawing from the world. Instead, it's about creating regular spaces in their lives where they can be quiet, reflective, and fully present with themselves without the distractions and demands of social interaction. Carol, who's 73 and starts each day with 30 minutes of quiet time before anyone else in her household is awake, explained it this way: "I used to be afraid of being alone with my thoughts. I would fill every moment with noise or activity or other people because I didn't want to face whatever was going on inside me. But I've learned that my inner world is actually quite pleasant company when I give it the attention it deserves." Some of these women practice meditation, others simply sit quietly with their morning coffee, some take solitary walks in nature, others spend time journaling or reading. The specific activity matters less than the intention to be fully present with themselves without agenda or distraction. What they've discovered is that this intentional solitude makes them better at everything else in their lives. They're more patient with others because they've learned to be patient with themselves. They're better listeners because they've learned to listen to their own inner voice. They're more confident in their decisions because they've learned to trust their own wisdom. Diane, who's 79 and takes a solo walk in her neighborhood every evening just as the sun is setting, shared this beautiful insight: "When I'm alone, I remember who I am underneath all the roles I play for other people. I'm not somebody's mother or grandmother or friend or neighbor. I'm just me, and I've learned that me is actually pretty good company." When you like yourself, when you enjoy your own thoughts and feelings and dreams, you bring so much more to your relationships with others. This practice of intentional solitude has also helped these women develop what I call comfortable independence. They don't need constant entertainment or stimulation from others to feel content. They've learned to find joy and meaning in simple, quiet moments, which makes them incredibly resilient and adaptable. The eighth habit that defines these joyful women is their mastery of what I call gentle boundaries. Over the decades, they've learned to say no to things that drain their energy and yes to things that nourish their souls, and they do this with such grace and kindness that people rarely feel rejected or offended. These women understand that their time and energy are precious resources that deserve to be invested wisely. They've stopped saying yes to obligations out of guilt, fear, or a misplaced sense of duty, and they've started making choices based on what aligns with their values and contributes to their well-being and the well-being of those they love. But here's what makes their boundary setting so beautiful: they've learned to say no with love. They don't make excuses or lie or hurt people's feelings. Instead, they're honest, kind, and often offer alternatives when possible. Linda, who's 76 and has mastered the art of graceful boundary setting, shared an example that illustrates this perfectly. "When my neighbor asked me to host the neighborhood book club at my house every month, my old self would have said yes even though I knew it would stress me out. But now I was able to say, I'd love to be part of the book club, but hosting every month would be too much for me. Could we rotate between different houses, or could I contribute in a different way? Everyone was perfectly happy with that solution, and I got to participate without overcommitting myself. These women have also learned to set boundaries with their own thoughts and emotions. They don't allow themselves to ruminate endlessly on problems they can't solve. They don't take responsibility for other people's feelings or choices, and they don't waste energy on regrets about the past or excessive worry about the future. This doesn't mean they're selfish or uncaring. Quite the opposite, actually. Because they take good care of their own needs and energy, they have more to give to the people and causes they care about. They're like wells that are regularly refilled, so they never run dry. Joyce, who's 81 and has learned to set boundaries with her adult children's drama and demands, put it beautifully. I love my children dearly, but I've learned that I can't fix their problems or live their lives for them. I can offer support and wisdom when asked, but I can't sacrifice my own peace and happiness trying to manage their choices. When I take care of myself first, I'm actually a better mother because I can love them from a place of strength and wisdom rather than anxiety and exhaustion. The ninth habit these radiant women share is their commitment to what I call legacy living. They've stopped waiting for someday and started actively creating the legacy they want to leave while they're still here to enjoy it and shape it. This doesn't mean they're morbidly focused on death or constantly thinking about the end of their lives. Instead, they're vibrantly focused on making sure that every day they live contributes to the story they want their lives to tell and the impact they want to have on the world. Some of them are documenting family histories, recording stories for their grandchildren, or writing memoirs not for publication, but for preservation. Others are teaching skills they've mastered to younger generations, sharing recipes that have been in their families for decades, or passing on traditions that might otherwise be lost. But legacy living isn't just about what they leave behind, it's about how they choose to live right now. They make decisions based on the person they want to be remembered as, the values they want to embody, and the love they want to share while they still can. Frances, who's 78 and has been slowly teaching her teenage granddaughter how to knit, quilt, and garden, explained it this way: I'm not just teaching her these skills because they're useful, though they are. I'm teaching her these skills because every time she makes something beautiful with her hands, she'll remember our time together. She'll remember my stories, my values, my love. She'll carry a piece of me with her always, and hopefully, she'll pass that on to her own grandchildren someday. What's beautiful about their approach to legacy is that it's not about grand gestures or dramatic achievements. It's about the accumulation of small, meaningful moments that add up to a life well lived and a positive impact on the world. Some of these women volunteer their time, others share their wisdom through mentoring, some preserve family traditions, others simply model what it looks like to age with grace and joy. They understand that legacy isn't just what you accomplish, it's who you become and how you influence the people whose lives you touch. Rose, who's 74 and has been writing letters to her grandchildren to be opened on their 18th birthdays, shared this insight. I may not be here when they become adults, but I want them to know how proud I am of them, how much I believe in them, and what wisdom I've gained that might help them on their journey. These letters are my way of loving them into the future. The 10th and final habit that defines these joyful women over 70 is perhaps the most profound of all. They have mastered the art of what I call present moment appreciation. They've learned to fully inhabit their lives as they are right now, rather than constantly longing for the past or anxiously anticipating the future. This doesn't mean they don't have memories they cherish or dreams they're still pursuing. It means they've found a way to honor their past and plan for their future while still being completely available to the beauty and opportunities that exist in this moment, today, right now. These women have developed an almost magical ability to find joy in ordinary moments. They notice the way morning light falls across their kitchen table. They savor the taste of their favorite tea. They feel genuine delight when they hear their neighbor's dog barking playfully in the yard. They've learned that life isn't just the big moments, the celebrations and achievements and milestones. Life is also the small moments, the quiet moments, the in-between moments that we so often rush past without noticing. Evelyn, who's 83 and seems to find wonder in everything from the pattern of raindrops on her window to the way her cat stretches when he wakes up from a nap, shared something that gave me chills. I spent so many years waiting for my real life to begin. First, I was waiting to graduate, then waiting to get married, then waiting to have children, then waiting for the children to grow up, then waiting to retire. And then one day I realized I had been waiting my whole life, and my life was happening all around me while I wasn't paying attention. Now I don't wait for anything. I live every single day, every single moment, as if it's exactly where I'm supposed to be. This present moment awareness has freed these women from so much suffering that comes from dwelling on regrets or worrying about uncertainties. They've learned that this moment, right now, is the only moment they truly have, and they've decided to make it as beautiful and meaningful as possible. This doesn't mean they live in denial about challenges or difficulties. When hard things happen, they feel their feelings fully and deal with problems practically. But they don't allow temporary difficulties to rob them of their ability to appreciate all the good that still exists in their lives. Margaret, who's 75 and dealing with some health challenges that have slowed her down physically, put it this way: I can't do everything I used to do, and some days that makes me sad. But I've learned that there's always something I can still enjoy, something I can still appreciate, something I can still contribute. Maybe I can't garden the way I used to, but I can still enjoy watching the birds that visit my bird feeder. Maybe I can't travel the way I used to, but I can still explore new books and learn about places I've never been. Every limitation also reveals new possibilities if you're willing to look for them. What ties all of these habits together is a fundamental shift in perspective that these women have made. They've stopped seeing aging as a process of loss and started seeing it as a process of refinement. They've stopped focusing on what they can no longer do and started celebrating what they've learned to do better. They've stopped measuring their worth by external standards and started valuing themselves based on who they've become and the love they've shared. These women understand that joy isn't a feeling that comes and goes based on circumstances. Joy is a choice, a practice, a way of being in the world that you can cultivate regardless of what's happening around you. They've learned that happiness depends on happenings, but joy depends on perspective, and perspective is something you can control. As I've spent time with these remarkable women, I've been struck by something profound. They're not just aging well, they're living well. They're not just surviving the challenges that come with getting older, they're thriving in ways that many people half their age haven't figured out how to do. Their secret isn't that they've had easy lives, because most of them haven't. Their secret isn't that they have perfect health or unlimited resources, because most of them don't. Their secret is that they've learned to find meaning, purpose, beauty, and joy in the life they actually have rather than the life they thought they were supposed to have. They've discovered that aging can be a gift if you approach it with the right mindset. Every year brings new wisdom, deeper relationships, clearer priorities, and a greater appreciation for the precious gift of being alive. They've learned that wrinkles are just evidence of all the times you've smiled, gray hair is a crown of wisdom earned through decades of experience, and slower movement is just an opportunity to notice more of the beauty you used to rush past. What I find most inspiring about these women is that they haven't waited for permission to be happy. They haven't waited for their circumstances to be perfect or their problems to be solved. They've decided to create joy in their lives starting right where they are, with exactly what they have, and their joy has become contagious, inspiring everyone around them to reconsider what it means to live a truly fulfilling life. The beautiful truth is that it's never too late to start implementing these habits in your own life. Whether you're 30 or 50 or 70 or 90, you can start today. You can start with gratitude when you wake up tomorrow morning. You can start moving your body with love and appreciation. You can start nurturing deeper, more authentic relationships. You can start expressing your creativity. You can start contributing to something larger than yourself. You can start learning something new. You can start enjoying your own company. You can start setting gentle boundaries. You can start living your legacy. And you can start appreciating this very moment as a gift. These 10 habits aren't just for women over 70. They're for anyone who wants to live with more joy, more purpose, more connection, and more appreciation for the incredible privilege of being human. They're for anyone who's tired of waiting for someday and ready to start creating a beautiful life today. The women who have shared their wisdom with me didn't discover these habits overnight. They developed them gradually, through years of trial and error, through facing challenges and losses and disappointments, through learning what matters and what doesn't, through discovering who they really are underneath all the roles they've played for others. But here's the beautiful thing. You don't have to wait decades to start benefiting from their wisdom. You can start implementing these habits right now, today, and begin experiencing more joy and fulfillment immediately. Every small change you make in the direction of these habits will compound over time, creating a life that becomes more beautiful and meaningful with each passing year. As we come to the end of our time together today, I want to leave you with one final thought from Dorothy, the 81-year-old library volunteer I mentioned earlier. She told me, the goal isn't to live forever. The goal is to create a life so beautiful, so meaningful, so full of love and joy and contribution that however long you have feels like exactly enough. My dear friends, I hope today's conversation has inspired you to start creating that kind of life for yourself. I hope you'll begin tomorrow morning with gratitude, move through your day with intention, and end it with appreciation for all the beauty you've had the privilege to witness and experience. If this video has touched your heart or given you ideas for living more joyfully, I would be so grateful if you would take a moment to give it a thumbs up. Your likes help us reach more people who might benefit from these stories and insights. And if you'd like to join our community of people who are committed to living their most beautiful lives at every age, please consider subscribing to our channel. We share new videos every week filled with wisdom, inspiration, and practical ideas for creating a life you absolutely love. Remember, joy is not reserved for the lucky few. Joy is available to anyone willing to cultivate it, practice it, and choose it every single day. You have the power to create a beautiful life, starting right now. I believe in you, and I can't wait to see what joy you'll create in your own life. Until we meet again, keep choosing love, keep choosing growth, and keep choosing joy. Take care, my friends.